that on my side as well. Are you broadcasting yet? Okay, because it does not seem that you are broadcasting on Twitch quite yet. Okay. And ahoy, Mojo. We are only going for an hour tonight, or by the time we actually get going, it'll probably be more like 45 minutes. But we've got, as you can see, something on the screen that we're going to be covering today. In fact, I actually need to recrop my transform a little bit, or a lot of bits. Nope, that was wrong. Actually, when I crop it, that moves the entire thing. So stand by for 2 minutes. Standing by to stand by. So no, that's 4, 5. No, that's not it. 2. No, that's not what we want either. Why can I not crop this side from the direction I want to crop from? So, okay, good, because I'm still having trouble figuring out why I've got duplicate stuff. Okay, so that's the one. Oh, wait, why is that? There we go. Okay, I was duplicating the duplication from your screen, duplicating what you were viewing and what on top of what I was viewing. So there we go. That's why I couldn't crop it properly. I was like, "Oh, why is this cropping like it's not the size it should have been?" Okay, so in case you can't tell from this, we are going to start off with our with our deeper dive into the Legends of Zelda by talking about the prequel comic made for was it Four Swords? Skyward Sword. Got it. Okay. And we have not knocked yet because let's see, where's that button? Knock. There you are. Knock. Knock. Yay. All right. So now, how do we do the chat? I think we might have already got it. Shared chat. Start sharing chat. There we go. I believe we have done this now. So, ahoy, Laganair Legion, tis I, the mariner. And yes, I think it works. Okay, cool. So we are, yes. Do you want to introduce us to what we are looking at here? I usually ignore the collaboration browser once I've got the chat started. Good plan. Okay. Oh yeah, I need to maybe get the YouTube chat going for the logging up stream. Ah, we really need to figure out a game plan to get this all set up before we get going. Even if it's just yeah, even if it just means doing like just having the stream or the stream starting soon screen up for a few minutes before we actually start and get that way we've got it going. It's just because yeah. And my brain has forgotten that I'm supposed to be going to the YouTube logging out channel to go get that chat box. So while I do that, if you're ready to do an intro, Hiro, you're muted apparently, but on my side, stand by. Use my OB. Nope, that's not it. Was it? Oh, that's right. I got Discord
Save.
already up.
There we go. Now you can hear me. Yeah, that's my fault. That was my side. I forgot that Streamlabs doesn't save my mic input settings. So it was monitoring an empty channel for some stupid reason.
I
um,
have also had that with Streamlabs.
Now, so we are covering, by the way, Dark Nova Dragon, how dare you try to call me out on the Untacular? Are you going to do an Untacular? If I don't see you doing an Untacular, I will completely disregard all commentary from you. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that. So my plan for this episode is for us to cover the prequel to the prequel, if you will. The prequel to Skyward Sword, which is
Oh, Snowy
the
Fox Girl, thank you for the for the follow on my end, my side.
ah, hi, Kaori. Um,
It
but
took me a minute on that one.
anyways, that being said, the manga was published for the very first time in the Hyrule Historia. This is the very first publication that covered the timeline chronologically from Skyward Sword through the adult timeline, through the child timeline, and through the hero does not appear timeline, as they detailed it in the original publishing. And the back of this book is a manga created in the traditional fashion, so where you read it from back to front. And there you go, page one. You might recognize that.
Looks correct to me.
There's a couple of pages that are shown in black and white. A couple of most of them are full color. It is a very good, in my opinion, story. It kind of picks up that very first page picks up with Link as a child in Skyloft, and then over the next couple of pages, it kind of gives you the lead into Once Upon a Time, if you will, and I think it is a very it kind of gives a somewhat dark, gritty feel to the story of a almost traditionally lighthearted story, lighthearted traditional story where it is a save the princess kind of thing. Um, but anyways, so far, what are you thinking, Mariner? Just to add into some color commentary, if you will.
I already want to read this. because it looks good. And if I knew anything about Skyward Sword, I would totally like understand what I was reading. But I know nothing about Skyward Sword. But you know about Skyward Sword, so
It
how does this manga tie into the Skyward Sword?
it tells, and I touched on it during our timeline breakdown. Maybe a little too much detail initially, but basically it
So
tells the tale of how Skyloft was created. And it kind of, not even kind of, it rolls all the way back into ancient Hyrule history. It is canonically, where's Soda when you need him? Canonically, it is the very first story, at least currently, where it portrays the world as having just been created. The goddess named Hylia, where the name Hyrule comes from, created the world and created her people, and it was a very small creation to start with for her people. And then she had a favored warrior who is the original Link, so to speak, and he was their protector. I don't think they're ever very detailed as to why he ends up put in jail, but he ends up imprisoned by her people and locked away because I presume it's something to do with something heretical. Like the goddess Hylia would actually appear before Link and talk to him, and he would share the information that she gave to him to them to help them protect themselves, to protect them, to better keep them safe. And the people took exception to that, thinking that he was being a heretic or he was insane or they were jealous of her favoritism towards him, so they locked him in prison. And he carried a sword that was blessed by her power, the original incarnation of the Master Sword. And that magic blade was one of the only things that could protect her people because the forces of evil were powered by shadow magic and what have you. Uh, the opening sequence there after it shows Link, young Link in Skyloft, it shows adult Link in prison, and that's where it jumps back 100,000 years or however far back in history, shows him in prison, and then the people come to him and beg him to forgive them for locking him away and beg him to protect them once again. So they release him and he literally says to them, "Why should I help you? You guys were ready to execute me not 10 minutes ago, basically."
by
And
the way, Mojo's giving you grief about
yeah,
your art book not having the broken spine or
yeah,
not.
that
That's the
spine's
debating.
that spine's
Yeah.
not broken, but the inside spine, if you look at it, you can see the bindings. So it didn't break the way normal spines break. And thank you for that. I did Link's a felon. I did read that, by the way, you trying to give me grief, Mojo, but I was in the middle of my thought. I was trying to finish it so I could answer you. um, but basically, he comes out and says, "Why should I help you guys?" And then Goddess Hylia comes to him and says, "Please protect my people. I know they wronged you, and that's partially my fault," kind of thing. So he comes out with okay, fine, one last time. So she blesses his goddess sword again, and then he goes out there and goes toe to toe against, like, if you're familiar with any Dynasty Warrior games, if you're familiar with any combat games or war games where you have a single character that tears down throngs of enemies with a single swing of a weapon, this manga like properly portrays that scene where he just comes out, looking like an absolute BA and swinging his sword, tearing down throngs of enemies with a couple of swings before the big bad shows up. And then in that moment, it's revealed that the goddess and the hero had a plan all along. And she just says, and this is kind of where Skyward Sword gets its name. She just says this line that's like adorably appropriate. Raise your sword to the heavens, raise your sword skyward. And he raises the sword over his head if you go a couple of panels down. And her power imbues the blade, and then the magic of the blade sends what is basically, I think it's either Kakariko or Hyrule Town or whatever. It's the only town where there's actual inhabitants at the moment on this world.
There
And
it is.
yep, there it is. That town raises into the sky with the power of the sword and the goddess. And that is the birth of Skyloft. That's how Skyloft became a world. And, or not a world, but a city in the sky. And then
So
in
in other
those,
words, Skyloft is literal.
yes, Skyloft is literal. In this, at the end, there's a couple of panels that close out where Link is spent because he used, whatever life force he imbued his life force in that to try and lift the sword sky, or to try and lift the Skyloft up, whatever. He's been fighting for hours kind of thing. So he's about to die kind of moment. And then the goddess Hylia basically says she loves him too much. She can't just let him die here and that be it. So she gave him a blessing to be reborn. But then with his last breath, he turns around and faces off against the big bad guy, who's the source of all the evil creatures. And he uses the last of his power to seal the bad guy away, which is the original incarnation of Ganon, or the evil wizard Vati, or take your pick. We've already talked about this spirit, this evil spirit, being the repetitive bad guy across the entire franchise. Um, and he gets sealed, and this is basically the pit that's left from Skyloft being raising into the sky. He gets sealed into this pit in the bottom of the pit with the Master Sword, well, the Goddess Sword. And then as the bad guy, the big bad, is sealed away, he curses. He basically says he's cursing the goddess and the hero. Really, what he's doing is he's using his power to perpetually also be reborn, stating that his descendants and his spirit will forever haunt the hero's spirit and the goddess's spirit. And then he's sealed away. And then the goddess Hylia says to Link, "Hey, I'm not going to let you face this curse alone." So she gives up her immortality to become a mortal spirit and be reborn alongside him every so many generations.
Ah, so she's Zelda.
Yes, she is Princess Zelda. Well, her spirit, the goddess Hylia, is Princess Zelda's spirit, and obviously Link is his own spirit. And then um, Evil Spirit Demise is the original bad guy's name before he was named Ganondorf. Demise is the name of the evil spirit who later is named Ganondorf or Ganon, or Evil King, Evil Pig King, whatever, Evil Wizard. Take your pick.
Whom do you serve? Ganon or Ganondorf or the evil one or that's enough.
He who shall not be named. Wait, no, wrong franchise.
Yeah, wrong franchise. I wasn't exactly quoting from the Zelda franchise, but that was perfect.
Yeah, wow. Anyways, this is the quick version of the recap. We can kind of discuss further from here now that I've recapped the story, and I would love interaction from the audience.
You don't think these are like the names for Minecraft mob boss
You're not wrong.
or Angry Birds? Angry
Right.
Birds it comes to mind. Okay, well, I won't scroll through the whole thing for spoilers, but I like how we've got the colors
Yeah,
here.
this is one of those things. If I were to commentate on it's a manga. I know people like to differentiate between manga and comics. It's the medium is still a comic book medium to me. And if I can say one thing about the artists and comic book uh, writers that know their craft, it's that they know when to apply color and when to apply black and white only shading. It is an art form that I feel like is sometimes lost and misapplied.
Dragon over dragon. So basically, pig squeals and wish upon the stars for revenge against his own doing.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Mojo says, in the mangas that I've read, I've noticed color is rarely used, but is used to emphasize a moment or feeling.
That would be one application for it because in truth, there's no one true application for switching between color and non. You're absolutely right. Most of the time, color is optional, quote unquote. And to add to that, to add dimension to that, the reasoning for it being so often not applied has more to do with cost association when it comes to manga because they want to cut costs and they want to market their manga. And if their manga gains syndication, it gets put into the running for production as an anime, which creates more advertisement for the manga because
Yeah.
everything surrounding manga is about marketing. Uh, People think I'm crazy when I say, no, no, no. The anime is just an advertisement for the manga. If you like the anime, go read the manga. The manga is usually better. And then when somebody's pitching a manga to producers, 9 times out of 10, they say, what's your plan for making money? And it always includes merchandise, plushies, pops, other keychains and gotchas, and then the anime at the end.
Is that why certain animes and movies and whatnot have a project this as the title? Like like this would be actually, I'm trying to think of a better example because I've seen it on a few animes or a few movies where it's like I can't think of any titles. My brain has decided it will no longer recall titles. Like shoot, like Project Final Fantasy for made up example, or
Oh,
Project Hack or um Project Akira or something to name a few
I,
random animes that I've seen over the years.
I don't know their naming convention for their projects. Everybody does has a different flavor for it. But in
Okay, because
truth,
I just thought like because it's marketing plan, the whole plan is called the project, or the
right,
whole like company is called Project this, or production team
99,
is called Project this.
99% of the time, the manga is the primary product that they want to drive everybody to. There are very few, and Nova Dragon here brings up the point. The manga is the script, and when it comes to the anime, and there's very few exceptions. And actually, I do remember that Trigun was split between the anime and the manga because they were running concurrently, and they kind of began at the same time. And they did another they did another season to Trigun. I got very excited. I wanted to look into it, and then I forgot. There was a new release for Trigun, and we're talking 20 years after the fact. And
Hmm.
Mojo points out Bleach and Naruto are a very good example of the anime marketing the manga. Again, the way the industry works when it comes to comics, I'm gonna this is heresy, I know. Comics versus cartoon. Now all the weebs are gonna come out in droves and cancel me. When it comes to the two mediums, your animation and your print formats, the print format is the product. If the print format gets popular enough, then the production studios will loop back around and be like, "Hey, you've been picked. Get ready. We're going to turn your stuff into an animation." And
Kind of wish this next panel was colorized too. It was an interesting. It was a disappointing fact that they transitioned here because I think I would have liked to have seen Hilly in full color.
yeah, the that bird, by the way, there's a
It's
legend.
not Ho-Oh from. It's
What's
not
that?
Ho-Oh from Pokemon.
No, no, absolutely not. That bird, by the way, I can't remember what they're actually called in that world, but the that bird is actually in Skyward Sword, but they give a reason for why that bird is still alive in Skyward Sword, because Skyward Sword takes place hundreds of years after the events of this manga. So there's actually a legend surrounding the birds. The birds aren't actually, supposedly they're not actually live animals. Supposedly they are spirits or something along those lines. I could be getting that wrong too. Anyways, here we have prequel specifically. I'm not sure what you're saying, Nova Dragon, but you're probably. Oh, Trigun was split into the release and the rest of the story in Stampede prequel specifically. Anyways, I'm gonna minimize that because that window was bugging me. Anyway, adding on to that, do we have any, and this is my fault for not picking up on this and not doing my homework earlier. Uh, is there the manga?
As with all manga, sometimes I have trouble reading, figuring out which panel comes first.
Right. Uh, Revisiting Skyward. Oh, okay. So this is a publication that says that the prequel manga was actually non-canon, which I vehemently disagree with. uh, but this is from the ZeldaUniverse.net fan site. And this was written in 2021, which I think is kind of ridiculous. Maybe the writer should revisit this story and
What's
revise
this
their
looking at?
statement. I apologize. I'll send the link over to you. Send link. Boop boop
Send me your link. I am prepared.
boop boop. It's an actual. So Zelda Universe is .net is a fan website that has been very long running, and there's a writer on there that titled the titled the article "Realm of Memories: Revisiting Skyward Sword's Non-Canon Prequel." I I disagree with that statement. I definitely believe it's canon. And to one case that each game possesses its own distinct personality.
Roger says, I recently had that moment with Dragon Age between Inquisition and Velgard. There's a huge discrepancy. Yes, very much so.
Mm,
I usually, if it comes to canon, I will usually lean towards the earlier games than the
mhm.
later games.
Right.
But on this, should we read some of this? How long is this?
It's a pretty
Ooh, this
long
is a bit
article.
long.
And it's an opinion piece or a think piece, so it's like, how much do we really want to dive into this person's opinion?
Well, we could read a couple of the sentences off the first paragraph at least. One of the multitudinous reasons I thoroughly adore the Zelda series is that despite all the thematic threads that draw the stories together into one cohesive saga, each game possesses its own distinct personality that allows it to stand out from the others. A Link to the Past is a brutally harrowing trek through a kingdom overwhelmed by death, decay, deformation, and The Wind Walker is a charming and whimsical quest with a healthy balance of goofy humor and melancholic contemplation. And Breath of the Wild, this person does not know how to have one sentence or
Mhm.
have multiple sentences. And the Breath of the Wild is a wondrously lush world of meditative beauty built on a foundation of unfathomable grief. But if I had to pick the game that I believe embodies pure, unadulterated delight, it would be Skyward Sword.
Hey. Skyward Sword was not well received, and it was mostly due to the motion controls of the Wii. Um, Now, mind you, an overlooked factor in that statement is the fact that Skyward Sword, while designed to be played with the Wii Remote's motion controls, was also very easily played on a regular standard controller because there was always the option built in to use, excuse me, a GameCube controller with the game. Some of these details I'm going to go into more depth in when we talk about Skyward Sword, the actual game. This is the prequel to the game. Um, Closing off, I would say,
Trying to figure out where their arguments are about where their points are that this is not canon.
I think mostly because it's not a game. Like they didn't embody this in a game. Let's see.
Summary, 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 summary,
Rest of the story play.
summary,
I'll go
summary,
ahead and read the
summary.
two closing. Well, wow, the closing paragraphs if you don't mind, because I think we got,
Sure.
yeah. Okay, so picking up with the panel where Link goes up against the big bad at the very end. From here, the rest of the story plays out the way you might expect. Demise's army launches an assault on the surface, and despite the best efforts of all the ground dwellers to fight them off, the Demon King overpowers them and mortally wounds Link. In their hour of despair, Hylia and Link use the Master Sword to cleave through the earth and send a group of surviving humans skyward, taking the Triforce to safety beyond the clouds. Though his friends beg for him to come with them, Link is too weak to follow and he's succumbing to his injury after proclaiming his everlasting love for his land and his people. God, take a damn breath.
Like I said, this person doesn't seem to know how to sentence.
Right? Stricken with grief over his noble sacrifice, Hylia promises that Link's spirit will live on forevermore, and she vows to sacrifice her own immortality to be reincarnated as a human by his side. Thus, we return to the beginning of the story as the Crimson Loftwing, that's what they were called, Loftwings, approaches the child of Skyloft and reaffirms their bond with the spirit of the hero. So, if you scroll up to the red bird, wow, this one didn't have it. Yeah, in the strip that you had because it doesn't have all the panels.
Okay.
If you scroll up to that bird there, that's the Loftwing had an unshakable, unbreakable bond with the chosen hero. That one in particular, and then the spirit of Link is reincarnated as a child in the very beginning of the story, and that Loftwing that you see is the effectively the same Loftwing, or it's the spirit of the same Loftwing. I digress. Considering how bruised and world-weary the original chosen hero was when we first met him, I think that having him die in battle is a poignant yet perfectly fitting end to this story, or to his story. Hey, he sentenced properly there. Building Link's legacy on a foundation of struggle and loss makes for a far more emotionally compelling origin story than starting off with a boy that lives a pretty carefree life until the day he has to save his best friend. But at the same time, this ending highlights the manga's most damaging flaw. The relationship between Link and Hylia is painfully rudimentary. Considering the length of the story, I would say that's forgivable. Just my opinion.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it, and I'm going to break this down in terms of Star Wars isms, and I think that you, Mariner, would appreciate this one. Uh, Padme and Anakin. The sudden, hey, we're in a relationship.
That's the Star Wars. Yeah, that's definitely the Star Wars trope.
That's the Star Wars trope. Well, I feel like this person's trying to draw that comparison without actually stating Star Wars, or maybe they don't even realize it. He's saying that the relationship is painfully rudimentary. That is necessitated by the fact that you have 33 pages of a manga compared to a 100-hour video game.
Yeah, we've only got so much room and ink we can put on the page. We have to get to the point and quickly.
Yeah, given how vibrant and spunky Zelda is in Skyward Sword, and how charming their sweet bond with her sweet bond, how charming and sweet her bond with Link is, I fully expect a similar kind of intimacy to develop between their ancestors in the manga. At the
You
very
don't have to
least,
pay that.
yeah, you can't do that. One,
If
and
it was
two,
like a full manga series, sure. Multi-book series, sure. You could take your time. Person
right.
forgets this is a 33-page prequel, basically a gift to the fans.
Oh yeah.
It's not really meant to tell more. It's not supposed to get too deep.
Hold on. Whoa, 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 Nova Dragon. What do you mean, or not licensed by Nintendo?
Oh, he's referring to the um, conversation previously about why this is possible reasons why this is not considered canon.
Well,
It's
sir,
Dark Horse Comics and Nintendo branded this thing.
I will vehemently disagree with you, Dark Nova Dragon. It was published in this book, like in 2011. Actually, give you a specific answer on that because I don't want to give false information. Uh,
While you're doing that, I will continue reading
First
Let's
English
see,
edition,
Mike said some
January
reference.
2013. There you go. Now you may continue.
I'm gonna skip over the top, over the bits where the author's inferring things that they have no proof of.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
Um,
that's another. I will giving leeway and being fair when it comes to things like anime and manga. A person is allowed to draw
there we go.
conclusions.
They actually admit it, but I don't blame Akira Himikawa for that. It's obvious to me that they were truly passionate about this manga, and they simply had too ambitious of an idea to fall in line with the 32-page restriction they were given. It's just a theory, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if this experience is what's inspired them to expand the Twilight Princess manga far beyond the typical length of their Zelda series. So, I mean, they're cutting the authors some slack. I still think they kind of missed the point, but
Yeah, yeah, I do have the deepest respect for these gifted and insightful women. I genuinely hope that one day they can return to this manga and help it blossom into the emotionally rich origin story that it truly deserves to be. I also have uh, the Twilight Princess manga in a graphic novel book form. I haven't read it yet. I feel like I'm doing it a disservice, but I do have that.
homework for a future episode.
Yeah, perhaps. Um, we've already got a lot of content to cover in this season, sir. Arguably more content to cover than we did with Final Fantasy.
I mean, there were 16 games in that. There's what, 20 in this one?
At least. But anyways,
Yeah.
to digress a little bit, well, yeah, to return to the point, rather than digressing from the point, let's return to the point. Yes, I got to cut this person some slack. In fairness, we must consider that the beauty of manga, anime, and video games, and theory crafting, if you will, comes with the territory of video games, of building up a cohesive timeline and actually hypothesizing intent. It became a big deal with Final Fantasy. It
Why do you
became a
do that?
big deal with Kingdom Hearts. And I think it continues to be a big deal with Legend of Zelda
Focus.
is theory crafting. But then
The theory crafting.
yeah, then I would love to hear your opinions on that. Because I don't know if you ever got into Kingdom Hearts, but that was a big deal to me. Was theory crafting.
Mm, no, but I've had my own practice of theory crafting with a different game entirely, or game franchise entirely. So I'm familiar with how fun it is to do. Um, let's see, where are we at here? Do we have anything we want to add to this conversation before we wrap up?
Um, aside from more conversation added from, say, our partners, our viewers, and yourself, I think.
I should really look into this game. If this manga is anything to go by, that game's gonna be intense.
It definitely. Um, you're looking at a lot of puzzle solving. You're looking at item collections. You're looking at there. There is a crafting system that's almost entirely optional. It's been so long since I played it, so I can't really speak to it because it's been so long since
Yeah.
I played it. But there is a crafting system that's almost entirely optional, if I remember correctly. Um, you get
Well,
yeah,
we'll get into more of the details about Skyward Sword next week. I
yes,
think
yes,
next week. Yeah, next week when we go into Skyward Sword because I think that's the first game in our list of
Yes, that is.
conversation.
It is,
Cool.
absolutely. This is, once again, this has been the prequel to the prequel.
First there was a sequel. First there was a movie, then there was a prequel, then there was a sequel to the prequel, then there's a prequel to the sequel, then there was a sequel to the sequel and a prequel to the prequel. To quote a certain teaser that came out last couple weeks ago.
Oh,
Anyone, if you know, you know. I'll
would
tell you
that
after the stream, Hero.
would that be Borderlands? Because that sounded like some Borderlands stuff right there.
No, I'll tell you after after the stream. If you don't pick up on it by then.
Okay.
But anyways, yes. And then also we've only got a few episodes this month before Hero and I are going on we're taking a break. Um
At least a week long.
so yeah, there's gonna be at least a week where where I know I'm gonna be traveling and I wouldn't leave Hero to try and do this on his own. So um there- there'll be like the last Tuesday of July, the first Tuesday of August. There will probably not be a stream of consciousness. Well,
Correct.
I don't necessarily speak true because I should be home by the 5th, but
Also,
it'll depend on how tired I am after my travels.
and that's where I was thinking. There's a possibility you might want a recovery day, or there might be just an extended screw off day due to the fact that work's probably going to be hectic for you.
Yeah, maybe. But we will broach those topics when we get there. Meanwhile, it is shameless plug time.
Shameless plugs!
So my
Ah,
shameless plug is I will be back tomorrow night for more satisfactory gameplay with Satisfactory right here on Deep Dive Gaming. And then Thursday night I will be over on Heroes side of the Twitch and YouTube to play more Satisfactory because I'm enjoying the game. We are playing a second playthrough with mods this time, and I'm learning there are a couple mods that I should not have installed because they turned out to be redundant.
unfortunate.
Also, I did post on the last YouTube side of the stream the um, mod list finally, and I'll be sure to include that on the stream tomorrow as well for anyone who's watching me over there and being entertained with my logistical prowess. Um, and then is there a I don't know, is there a Lagging Out Live podcast this week? We didn't have
there,
one last week.
we didn't have one last week, but I do believe well, I am 99% sure that we will have one this week.
Okay.
Um,
We'll find out tomorrow night, I guess.
yeah, for sure that we will find out the specifics tomorrow night. Um, forgive me. That was probably entirely my fault that it didn't happen because I reminded Chieftain that Friday was the 4th of July. He'd actually forgotten that. But
Ah,
that being said, when I reminded him, he's like, "Hey, that's true." And then I saw no chatter in the Discord server.
I tried
But
to prompt him and nothing happened, so
Yeah. That being said, we will be back this week. I am very certain, and I look forward to coming back. We might even have a guest or two. We'll see. Um, check out our website.
lagginout.com.
Yep, check out our
Yeah.
website, lagginout.com. Check out the awesome web design prowess of the Mariner.
Check
um,
out the authorship of Hero because he missed out last week on writing an article, so it's now falls him to do it again this week.
yeah, well. There also wasn't a show.
Yeah, but well next week then after Friday's stream he'll still be his turn.
Yeah,
And let's see what else. I think I'm pretty sure that's everything.
I'm pretty sure you are
Um,
correct, good sir.
do you want to plug any of the other streamers on the Lagging Out team?
Yes, Foxy Kaori will be streaming in Near Autonoma. Which day do you stream on Lagging Out, Foxy?
think it's Wednesday.
I believe it is Wednesday. However, she usually comments in the chat. Tomorrow, she says. You stream
There we
on
go.
Lagging Out tomorrow, so Wednesdays. And then also check out her own personal channel. She will publish a schedule for herself to stream at some point soon, hopefully.
8:30
8:30
p.m. She
p.m.
says. Is that Eastern?
Yes, that would
Probably
be
Eastern time.
Eastern.
Okay. Yeah, I think that covers everything. So thank y'all for coming, hanging out in the chat with us, and contributing. Tune in next week for more Stream of Consciousness Legend of Zelda conversation.
That's right.
Until then, so do you want to sign off first, or shall I sign off?
We
You
could
don't
do
have
that.
an ending thing, so you sign off first.
Yeah, we don't have an end sequence. So yes, I'm gonna say until next time, enjoy your video gaming. I will say this is Hero signing off and lagging out.
And I
Have a
hope
good
you
night,
see
y'all.
y'all tomorrow. I hope to see you all tomorrow. So until then, enjoy Zelda, whichever Zelda game you prefer. Fair winds and fun gaming, y'all.